If you really think about it, becoming a novelist, screenwriter, director, and actor has turned Ethan Hawke into one heck of a rare creative hybrid. Howdy, I'm Jeff Goldsmith, Senior Editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, and today we have Ethan Hawke with us for the Q&A to chat about his new film, The Hot Estate, which is, in fact, based on his novel that he turned into a screenplay and then directed and also acted in, which is indeed quite an impressive feat, actually. This Q&A almost didn't even happen since Ethan's flight to LA was delayed due to weather, and he missed our sold-out screening of his film, but Mr. Hawke was cool enough to clear some time out of his schedule the next day so that he could sit down and discuss his film, and I think you'll be pleased with the results. I know I am. And in keeping you happy, though, why not use the discount coupon code CSPodcast to save yourself some money on registration for our Screenwriting Expo happening the weekend of October 27th, 2007. It's a 4-day event. You got to check it out. It's our 6th annual Screenwriting Expo, which features classes, guest speakers, screenwriting contests, and more. So check it out at www.screenwritingexpo.com, and remember to use the coupon code CSPodcast in order to save yourself, I believe, 10% off a regular pass. But now, without further ado, let's jump right into our one-on-one podcast with novelist, screenwriter, director, and actor Ethan Hawke, wherein he discusses his latest film, The Hot Estate. So, you missed your flight last night. What the hell was up with that?
I didn't miss it, dude. It didn't happen. It just left late.
It left late.
4 hours late.
Oh, really?
I didn't get in until midnight.
Oh, it was 2 hours
Yeah.
last time I heard.
Yeah, and by the time, that was when they canceled the thing. They knew I wouldn't make it, but then it kept getting delayed, and I had no idea why. But I did not miss my plane.
No, I know. I was messing with you. But everybody really enjoyed your film, so I'm going to have some questions later from the folks in the audience.
All right.
But, there's this old adage, write what you know. So you had written a book about a 20-year-old actor, and it was at a time when you were in your 20s. Talk about where you got the concept to write the book, The Hot Estate, which I know was published in 1996. How long had you been writing it before it was published?
Well, I don't. There's a couple different ways that I can answer that question. I started goofing around, writing a collection of short stories about a kind of parallel universe. William Harding, and I slowly started realizing that put together, they had a collective narrative. My first fantasy was, I had read Dennis Johnson's Jesus' Son, and that's kind of a little novel, and I wanted to do it in that spirit. And as it turned out, the short stories, it stopped really being that, and it became a novel. I don't know exactly why I started or what prompted me. And
do you remember how old you were?
Well, yeah, I do. I remember literally, I wrote the first short story, and it was all about the notion, the opening of the movie where a guy is looking out of his window and he's watching couples make out and saying goodnight. He lives across the street from this apartment complex in the short story, and then he goes out and he meets a girl and comes back, and he starts, basically the idea of entering your own movie, of growing up where you start.
That's great.
There's that moment in your life where you feel like you're just waiting for your life to happen. You're waiting for life to happen, and you realize, oh, it started. And that's what I wanted the opening of it to be. But anyway, I did that. I wrote that short story when I was doing The Seagull. I was about 22 years old,
wow.
And Laura Linney was playing Nina, and I was playing Treplov. And every night I was supposed to cry about my writing and care about my writing. So I thought, shit, I got to start writing again. And I was also involved in this theater company and was surrounded by writers. And so I just started trying my hand at it. And that's when it all started.
That was the start. How long would you say it took you to write it? 4 years?
Yeah, 4 years. In sporadic times with more and more seriousness, I started working on it, had a first draft, and then I went away to do Before Sunrise. And something about that experience was wildly empowering. Linkletter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird thing that Julie and I both have movies coming out right now.
Yeah,
because it's kind of bizarre because both of us back then, Rick believed in us, and we wrote a lot of that first movie, and there it was. It was a strange thing for me to read a review of the book, read the review of the movie in the New Yorker magazine, citing passages I wrote. And it was a very empowering thing. Like, I sometimes wonder if not for Before Sunrise whether I would have ever had the guts to publish The Hottest Date. Then I took like a year off, and I dedicated myself to writing the book and finishing it.
Sure.
And that's how that came to be.
Explain the double meaning of the book's title.
Well, in a way, it's an open ripoff of The Catcher in the Rye. You know,
Sure.
The double meaning there. But this double meaning is, the book is about that intersection of this heightened state of love, of heightened the hottest state being the elevated romantic passion, and the fact, and where you come from, and that they're completely connected, that there's a moment, the first time somebody kind of gets into the essence of you, you know, the first time you let somebody into that secret box that is you, that you feel like, and that this person crawls in there, and the only other people that have ever been in there are usually your parents. You know, they've the ones who've given your kind of self the vocabulary of love.
Sure.
And the hottest state to me is that meeting place, and the fact that, you know, that we bring so much into our romantic relations that doesn't have anything to do with the other. You know, a person. There's the central line, and to me, to the movie is you know, when she says, "I didn't break your heart. Your heart was broken long before you ever met me."
Which is a great line.
Yeah, when that's the central line, it's that, you know, we use other people to get to know ourselves, and that you don't fall apart when a woman leaves you if you're doing all right.
Right.
It's not her that breaks your, you know, that shatters your world. If you can't stand on your own 2 feet and let somebody love you or not love you, then there's some other things going on.
Isn't the double meaning also the good old homeland, Texas?
Well, that's what I mean. Where you come from, the hottest state.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Texas,
where you come, and where William and where I come from is the hottest state.
Cool.
And that's where, ideally, I'm trying to use it as a metaphor where it could be where you come from, where Susie McGillicuddy comes from. Do you know?
Now, I hate obvious questions. I'm going to only ask you one.
All right. Let's see if I can. At the end of this, if you really only asked one.
Well, you actually are probably right. You're probably
all right. Well, let's.
But I'll ask the most obvious, lamest question to get it out of the way immediately. How much of this was
is autobiographical?
Autobiographical.
Yeah. Well.
And then we could get back into a real interview.
No, I mean that's part of a real. I mean that's something people want to know.
Yeah, no, I know it is.
That's something
why I put
that
it up front.
Is that how much of it is autobiographical? It's when I first wrote it. It was intensely autobiographical. I mean, it's not a memoir.
No.
You know, it's you know, great a model for the book and a model for the movie both, funnily enough, was The Last Picture Show. When I first read The Last Picture Show, you close that book and you think, that's his life. Those people are real, you know? And there's a magic to it because of that. There's a magic to all that jazz. Because you go, that's Fosse's life. He's telling the truth, sure. You know? And I wanted that. I like that kind of art. You know, there's, you know, when you listen to Double Fantasy, you know that John Lennon's just singing it. He's not manipulating it. He's not.
No, sure.
And there's sometimes that's crazy self-indulgent, and sometimes it's just kind of, it feels like you're hanging out with a friend. You know, and that's what I wanted. Is it autobiographical now? Now it doesn't feel. My life doesn't feel anything like that.
Was there a tough breakup or a tough first
oh sure
love
oh
that,
yeah
that
yeah
it was
yeah
inspired
I mean
by?
I there was a moment in my life where I was wrecked. You know, some girl I was crazy about and she didn't care about me, and I couldn't let her go. And as I was trying to recover from it, I felt like there were all these books and things about women crying their eyes out over love, but there's all this shame if you're a guy. Guys aren't supposed to care about love. Guys are you're supposed to be the one who can't commit. You're supposed to be the one who, and yet I knew I wasn't alone. There had to be somebody else that felt this way. And my kind of hope for the movie, in a weird way, is that, you know, 8 years from now or something, some guy will be crying in his beer, you know, about some girl, and his buddy will say, "Hey, did you see The Hottest Date?" And he goes, "No." He says, "Just check this out," and they'll slide him the DVD, you know. Is it like you know, I wanted to end the movie. There's a great old Johnny Cash song, "Before My Time." I know that heart's been loving long, but, you know, I'm not the first to cry in my bed or in my beer. And I wanted The Hottest Date to be a little bit like that.
As an actor, you read a lot of scripts, which is actually a great way as a writer, especially a screenwriter, to grow. Talk about how you as an actor break down a script, because we're going to get to how it influenced you as a screenwriter in a second.
Well, a couple different ways. As an actor, when I read them, like say that you wrote a screenplay and you're interested in me being in it, and you'll give it to me and say, "Hey, would you want to play Freddie Fabatz?"
Freddie Fabatz, indeed.
Yeah, and Susan McGillicuddy. Yeah, but Freddie Fabatz, and basically, there's something I can read a script pretty instantaneously and know whether it's something I would be interested in playing. And that's usually something nonverbal, or whether it plays into my own imaginative life.
Sure.
It has nothing really to do with whether I think it's a good script or not, or whether, I mean, yes, obviously, if it doesn't work, then you get less interested. But it's not a critical mindset that's on. It's an emotional mindset. It's like, let me try to give you an example. Like, I'm trying to think of reading the script to a certain movie.
What'd you think when Training Day came across your desk? I'm gonna talk about
that's
it a little more later. But.
That's an interesting one, because my career at that moment was kind of suffering, and I had to fly out to New York, and I went to my agency and I was like, "Look, I'm humble. Like, send me in on some auditions."
Which is fantastic.
I said, look, because I'd already I was feeling a little passé. Like, the whole Gen X thing was over, and what was so nobody was interested and so they said, well, you got to start reading some scripts, because I'd kind of gotten a little lazy about that. And so I went through a period where I just read a ton of scripts, and I came to LA and I went to the agency, and they said, well, what'd you think of the scripts you read? And I said, well, look, there's one that I want to be in, and it's Training Day. And
how far into did you realize that there was connection for you with that character?
The first scene, they're at the coffee shop. It's not the very first scene. It's like scene 3 or something like that. They're in the coffee shop, and Denzel's character kind of gives him the once over about it. And I thought, I can do this. Like I felt the character always reminded me of my brother. I kind of played my brother in that movie. I have a brother who's a Green Beret in the military. He's in Baghdad right now, and he's a for real do-gooder. I mean, by that, not like he's some kind of poncy, hey, everybody.
Sure,
but he believes that you can make a difference, and he's willing to, put his ass on the line for real and do it. And I could see if he was, he always talks about, if he quit the military, he'd probably be a police officer. And I always thought, I could see my brother being in the situation, getting assigned, and I know, how he would want to do the right thing. And
yeah, that's what your character is in that movie.
Yeah, and so how to try to play the hero without being... without playing the hero, without being silly and Elliot Ness about it, and so I related to that guy right off the bat, and it was that first scene. As soon as I read that first scene, I could, it keys into your imagination. I could see it, I could be it, I could figure out. Oh, that line's bad. Ideas like this, you go, that line's bad. Oh, you know what he should say is this. Oh, that line's good. Oh, I know, I got a hit on that.
So did you eventually get to meet David Ayer?
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, first I had to come in and read. Right. No, not a small rewrite. David Ayer's a cool guy. It happens much more naturally than that.
No, that's great.
And with David Ayer, the only work I did on that was cut. I just tried to cut as many lines. I thought I was better off just looking at Denzel.
That's cool.
And, there were weird things, like a movie that I did that I don't like very much, Snow Falling on Cedars. There was this I read the script, and there was this one scene that moved me so much. And I wanted to play that one scene. And they cut it out of the fucking movie.
Really? What was
yeah,
the scene?
I don't even want to get into it. You know what I mean? It was like...
Is it even on the DVD?
No, it's not on the DVD. The director, Scott Hicks, he's a good director. He just completely lost interest in my character. Wow. It was one of those things, as the movie went on, he got really interested in the cinematography, and he just lost interest in the story completely. And if you look at the movie, it is one of the most beautiful movies ever made. Absolutely. And it is boring. And so I call it like a coffee table movie. You want to flip through it and go, gosh, that's pretty.
Better still pictures than moving pictures.
Yeah.
I asked this to a lot of producers, and we're getting back to How to State, but since you do have to read so many scripts a year as an actor, is there a point at which you kind of have I'll give it the first 20. If I don't see something I like in the first 20, I'm setting it down.
I know that. I don't get past page 20 if a friend didn't write it.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Or unless it grabs you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You know, like for example, I'm going off to this vampire movie right now.
Which one? What's it called?
It's called Daybreakers, and
good title.
I got the script in the mail, and it's like with a note from my agent. Well, vampires, and I like no, and it's kind of funny. My agent said, "Look, just check it out. I think it's good. Please check it out." I said, "All right, I'll read the first 5 pages." And the first scene was awesome, and then so I'm off. But I resist things terribly because I can spend. You sound cynical about it, but I could spend the better part of every day reading scripts. If I want to be, I don't know how guys like Tom Cruise do it. Like they read all this material. I can't do it. Like when do you get to read a book? When do you get to go to the movies?
Yeah. Well, they have a company. I mean, do you have your own production?
No, they have readers and things like that.
And development executives. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't do that. And so I.
But now that you're writing and directing more, are you considering ever launching a production company?
No, because I want to shoot straight from the heart.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I want things to come from the ground up. I mean, yes. I have no mogul desires.
Right.
My heroes are not. Don't
have their own production company.
They don't have.
No, I'm with
yeah.
you. I mean,
yeah.
do it as you want to do it. Now, just the last question about screenplays. Over the years, you would think by osmosis that you would pick up some things that helped you out. As you started writing more yourself, was there anything in particular that was just kind of tricks that you saw or things that you're like, absolutely never do this? I like that in that script. I'm going to have to kind of remember that for my toolbox. Or was it just kind of something you can't even describe? I mean, was there
I'm not a good screenwriter.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
you did a damn good job with this movie.
Thank you. And
Academy Award nominated with
know,
the rest of the team for Before Sunset.
But the thing about Before Sunset, and I am proud of that one, and I should say, is any self-respecting screenwriting teacher in the country would have told us that was a terrible screenplay. I mean, we had an idea of doing a movie in real time, and we went for it. And it was really fun. And I feel like screenplays it's a weird medium because it's kind of like putting together plans for a party. It's not the party itself. You write a book, and it is the party.
Right.
You make a movie, it is the party.
Yeah.
A screenplay is like we're going to get 2 kegs, we're going to get Van Halen to play, and then you know what I mean. Whatever the thing is, and does Van Halen show up? You end up only getting a keg and a half. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but my real answer to that question is that I've learned about writing from the screenwriters I've worked with, and largely from the playwrights I've worked with. Playwriting is more artful than screen. I mean, in that it's more of a finished thing. You can read them more easily. They have a certain kind of value, like a sonnet has a value or something. There's still plans for a party too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But Linklater had a huge impact on me as far as like picking up. He's a very brave screenwriter, and he's not interested in rules, and he's not interested in.
Rules are meant to be broken. Absolutely, I completely agree.
They are. He's like, you don't make Slacker if you're not interested in breaking rules.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And
did he read drafts of this? Did you get notes from Linklater?
Yeah.
That's great.
Mostly, I think that anybody who's friends with Rick knows the kind of notes you get from Rick are, yeah, man, keep going. Like he's super
nondescript.
Yeah, but he's also he's a really encouraging guy.
No, sure.
He judges. He judges people by their best. You can kind of judge somebody by their worst moment, or you can judge them by their best. And he kind of takes everybody. You can say like, "Well, I think so and so sucks," and he'll go, "Did you see that movie? He was good in that one scene."
Any constructive notes that you remember, like something that really helped you fix a scene or a moment?
He gave me great notes on Chelsea Walls.
Okay.
He really did. He really helped me with Chelsea Walls.
Chelsea Walls, you directed, you didn't write.
I didn't write, and he was helpful to me on that. On The Hottest State, he was nominally helpful. I mean, he was just encouraging.
All right, cool.
And I've written a couple other screenplays that he's been helpful with, more helpful than this one.
That are unproduced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask you, like, what is your stack of unproduced material? Like, how many scripts?
Fucking getting bigger and bigger, you know. But
how many scripts did you say that you have that are sitting around?
Oh, just 2.
2? Okay,
just
that's
2.
Pretty short stack.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll be able to make them after this comes out.
Yeah.
Do you want to make them? Are they not in a stage where you're ready? Do you think they need more work?
Getting a movie made these days is so hard.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Basically, what I feel like is you got to have a drawer full for when the moment strikes, when people care about what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, like,
absolutely.
It's like, you know, when Training Day comes out, all of a sudden, for 5 minutes, I have a little bit of clout. Boom, we finally get to make Before Sunset. That's how I feel these things roll. You know, that's what you have to do. You have to have these things kind of ready to go, so that I got a cool Western I wrote that someday, if I'm ever in the position, I'll get it made.
What's the title?
It's The Dead.
Good title.
James stole it from James Joyce.
Very good.
Yeah.
But it's not an adaptation of his work, is it?
No, it's a Western.
I've heard
Yeah.
of Stranger. This is the first time you've written and directed. Why did you decide that this book was filmic? What was it that made you come back to this?
Mostly how much I wanted to work with young actors.
Okay.
In a way, that's where I thought, as a guy who was a young actor, I was drawn to it because I thought, God, it seemed, I took that, you know, like you started off with saying that write what you know thing. I took that very seriously. I took that whole thing they tell you in school, follow your bliss, pretty seriously.
Absolutely.
I do what sounds like fun. And The Hottest State felt like it was right across the plate for me. You know, I mean, it's New York. It's working with young actors. Music. I love music.
Great soundtrack, yeah.
And like, this is like something I thought I could do well. I can make this cheaply, and I can do it well. Where you could make a case to be made that if I'm going to direct a Western, I need some more experience.
Sure.
You know what I mean? That's that's outside of my comfort zone.
I can see that. I mean, so when you did it, because I've interviewed very few people that have adapted their own book.
Yeah. Have you interviewed anyone?
Well,
Rebecca.
No. I've missed
Rebecca Miller did it.
Yeah.
And you know,
we interviewed her for the magazine too. Yeah.
You did? She did it. You know who else did it? Is Norman Mailer. He directed Tough Guys Don't Dance.
That's
remember
right.
that?
and Tom Perrotta's lately been adapting his own books into screenplays because I think he could. Yeah, actually, I know he co-wrote Little Children.
Right.
And the next movie, I think, based on his book, he is writing.
Yeah, but did he direct it?
No, he did not.
That's the weird thing is directing your own novel.
But hell, man, just writing your own novel into a screenplay. I mean, like, how long since you'd already written the novel did it take you to adapt it to a screenplay?
Oh, 2 seconds.
Seriously? So was that?
That element of it was easy. There was one.
There's a lot of cutting you need to do.
Yeah,
so
but
I would think it would take some time and restructuring to make it filmic, or maybe not. Did you have to add a lot more dialogue?
You know, there's a couple of funny things. In the years that the book has sat with me, like John Irving. Let me brag for a second.
Let's drop some names.
John Irving wrote me a letter and telling me how much he liked The Hottest State as a book. Now that meant a lot.
That's great.
You know, but he said you made one mistake. You should have opened with chapter 8. And I flipped open the book. What do you mean? And it stayed with me. In fact, I really should thank him. You know, the movie opens in Texas.
Right.
And that's just a flashback. It was like some chapter in the middle of the book. And he was right. It was a great idea to open with, here's how the story was told to me. The story and talking about his mother and father. Right. I wonder if sex was easier in Texas than it was in New York.
And that is how you begin the movie.
Yeah. And I was like, that's great. And so, I wish I'd opened the book like that, damn it. And I looked in a large way as adapting the book as a way to get the novel right. Because I could just kind of condense it to its essence. I felt like I didn't feel it was clear in the novel that the novel's not really about Sarah.
Sure.
That the novel is about his relationship with his father. And I could do that in the screenplay. Starts, he's on a train. Where's he going?
Well, that was a great structural device, the way that we keep flipping back to that.
You're like, where's he going? Where's he going?
Right.
What's this? The whole movie's a memory. She's just the catalyst to motivate. Sarah scrapes off the scab to the real fucking wound,
That's right.
which is, you know, this relationship with the father. So the whole movie, I can kind of create this energy where it's all going towards this thing. In the book, that was a real non-event. It's like a phone call that they kind of talk about the Dallas Cowboys and it doesn't happen. Do you know? And I got to actually, like, So the big thing I
That's
added.
a huge rewrite.
I kind of got.
More dramatic too. I mean,
it's much more dramatic, and it's really the essence of what the hottest state is trying to be about, which it wasn't in the novel. And so I feel, and you know what I would do is, I was having a lot of trouble writing, and I was kind of tinkering around with the final rewrite of Ash Wednesday, and so I started. When I was struggling, I would tentatively work on a
project.
You know, just for fun, I'd say, well, let's adapt to Hottest State, and if if the script turns out good, I'll make it. And that's kind of what I did. I just kind of tinkered around with it, and then I'd leave it.
How long would you say it took? I mean, you said 2 seconds before, but obviously a little longer.
What I mean is, I'd work on it for like 4 days,
okay,
and then I'd drop it for 3 months, and then I'd pick it up and I'd work on it for 2 weeks, and then I'd drop it for 6 months.
So
that's why it took so long. Yeah. So it just took forever.
You've been doing it for years.
Yeah, and then slowly I was like, okay, I'm going to do a reading of this.
When was that?
It was right before I went off to do Taking Lives. And then what happened is my marriage fell apart, and the whole thing got put on hold for 3 or 4 years.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was kind of gearing up to do it a while ago.
When that happened, did that influence you? Because I mean, there's a broken heart aspect of this.
Yeah, sure. Everything influences you.
Course.
Yeah, everything's set through the lenses that you're looking through at the present moment. You know.
But I mean, it wasn't like a major rewrite. It didn't make you okay. All right. Talk about your process. When you write, how many hours a day do you write for?
It depends. My dream scenario, like when I'm really in the throes, my dream scenario is a 8 to 12 kind of thing. Try to get up early.
Just knock it out at the beginning of the day.
Yeah, beginning of the day.
Because
then what happens is you can spend the rest of your day picking up your kids from school, going to thing, and daydreaming. Give yourself lots of daydreaming time, but a discipline. So you don't put a lot of pressure on yourself to write 8 hours a day. You know, even if you do 8 to 10 every day, you know.
Do you have a page count you shoot for?
1.
Okay. Hey, one's better than none.
Because usually you can do 1. I play these games with myself.
Right.
I say 1 and I'm done. And what happens is you do 6, you do 7 on a good day, and on a bad day you don't do any. But you always feel like you're ahead.
Right.
Because my thing is, if you do 1 a day, 5 days a week for a year, you got a 250-page book. I mean,
absolutely.
It's not rocket science.
What do you do to battle writer's block if you get it?
Work on adapting.
Something else?
You know what I mean? That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like when you're blocked up,
So
I try editing,
right.
You
try what?
Editing something else.
Okay, cool.
Get yourself writing again in some capacity.
Was there any moment, aside from the Irving story, that really surprised you in transitioning the book to the screen? Something that was just something new that you found?
Casting Catalina.
Okay.
All of a sudden she's a Latin girl.
Interesting. Yeah,
what does that do to the movie? And all of a sudden it started seeming dead right. And I started playing with these ideas of well, shit, why do they go to Paris to make a movie? The movie's called The Hottest State. They should go somewhere hot. Why didn't I think of this before? They should go to Mexico. And then I thought, this will be great because all her Latin imagery will play on the Texas imagery. So it'll continue with this theme of him getting confused between missing his father and missing her. You know?
That's great. Joe Beatty, who was one of our audience members last night, asked that question.
What did he say? What did he say?
He said, "Why did it go from Paris in the book to Mexico?" So you just answered it. I just wanted to
and
let
then
you know that was one of our questions.
And these ideas beget other ideas. Like you go, well, in Mexico, what would they be shooting? Oh, wouldn't that be cool? He was doing I personally have always wanted to make a movie of Camino Real,
right.
Tennessee Williams. It'd be this total rock opera, weird. Francis Ford Coppola should do it, but I thought, well, I'll have him doing that.
No, that's totally wild. Did you rewrite during production?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you find yourself doing a big rewrite or just kind of on the set as you needed to?
Well, little things like it was snowing one day, so I moved that scene with Mark and Catalina at the mother's house out onto the porch so they could be out in the snow. It was supposed to be like in the living room or something like that. That's a location change. That's not what you're talking about. I rewrote some things. None of them. The funny thing is, I thought I was a genius, coming up with these little ditties on the day. None of them made the movie.
Novels, there's a lot of first-person subjective things that are going on in people's minds. A lot of times when people adapt novels, they bring in voiceover or a narrator. Sometimes people use it as a crutch. It was very even here. It was used just in the right dosages. How did you balance that? Was there a version where there was a lot more voiceover, or was what we saw kind of what you started with?
Yeah, there was a version where there was a lot more, of course, because that's how you can build the screenplay.
Right.
In a way, it's a useful tool of you build the screenplay. Sometimes I thought I would end up taking it all out. That was maybe my hope at one point.
It was very lean.
But I ended up excited. Thanks. I hope so. There were some of my favorite moments. One of my favorite pieces of the movie is an accident, which is we were just kind of rehearsing and Chris Noor, our cinematographer, started shooting Catalina practicing the guitar with Mark in the background. It's just this, and I used the whole shot, and it wasn't anything we planned. And I used that little piece of Sarah wasn't sexy the way other girls are sexy. She wasn't. Her body wasn't tight or taut. She was funny. The way people fall asleep on a bus is funny. You remember that? There's that little voice.
Absolutely.
So I just put that in there because it kind of captures the essence of just seeing him. And that was, you can't plan for that kind of thing. And that worked. That kind of voiceover works for me. Because I don't like voiceover that's motivating the story.
Right.
And then we went to
exposition.
Yeah. If it's the kind, like, I love the closing of the movie. There's something that Mark Webber did that is impossible. It's the fun of performance. When he's driving away in the car at the end of the movie, when he walks out of that club, she starts singing, he kind of just nods. He kind of seems like a grown-up.
Yeah,
and in the beginning of the movie, he seems like a boy. And he kind of captures something in his demeanor change where he's learned something from this experience. And that little voiceover comes in about, being an orphan at last, that kind of voiceover I like. Because I could play the movie without it. You don't need it. It's just adding. It's like a piece of music or something.
Really briefly, as you said earlier, it is almost impossible to get a movie made these days. How hard was it for you to raise your financing, and what was your budget and schedule?
My budget and my schedule, I made the movie for about $2 million in 30 days. And part of why I had every intention in all honesty to kind of leave this kind of self-reflective art completely behind me. But people were these... there was this woman who produced Chelsea Wall's, Alexis Alexinian, said to me, "You should make The Hottest Date into a movie." I said, "Hey, you've given me the money, I'll do it." And then, she came to me one day, I was doing this play, Hurly Burly, with these Japanese people who had distributed Chelsea Walls in Japan, and they said, "If you can make the movie for under $2 million, we'll do it." And I thought, well, shit, let me get out that adaptation I was working on, do you know?
There's a very free-spirited approach to the first act. Just all the conversations that they're having. And I was sitting there thinking as I'm watching it, like, you're totally invoking the spirit of Godard, who's still alive, Jean-Luc Godard. And then, of course, at the party scene, they walk right in front of a poster for Godard's Masculine Feminine. Could you talk about the influence of Godard on you?
Well, that party scene, I wanted to be a Godard party scene.
Yeah.
You know how the camera just kind of floats over to
Absolutely.
Linklater talking about John Wayne and just doing... And, Masculine and Feminine is one of the predecessors to this movie. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of cliche to say now, to conjure Godard or J.D. Salinger, these kind of these kind of mainstays of artistic integrity, But if I had a little, my hat is off to him, man. I wanted that party scene to be great, and but if you don't have a lot of money, man, if you don't have time to, how did he do that?
Well, even when they're walking around the apartment, that was totally...
That's very Godard. Yeah. I wanted the first half of the movie to be, that is that whole Godard section of the movie. Right. It really...
It's like back to back.
Yeah, it goes from that to the party scene to they go into a club and it's one take and you see the band in the background. She walks out. All that's, and even then they run outside and we do this kind of like uber like low angles of her. She looks like straight out of a Godard movie with a red jacket. I'm a sucker for that shit. That's my visual aesthetic. I can't. What is that? I don't know what you call.
It's hard to write too because it's just very loose and free spirited.
It's you gotta be real.
How open were you to improv?
Pretty open. If
it's funny, you wrote the book, you wrote the script. Yeah. Like, do you want people to improv at that point? Because you're pretty immersed.
I find in general improv works great in rehearsal, and then if you like it, you incorporate it into the text.
How long did you guys get to rehearse?
About 2 weeks with Mark and Catalina. Good. Like things that came out of improv, like there's in that little thing, she walks up to him and says, "You're such a dumb boy." That's something Catalina said. It's a great line, and
I think you outdid Swingers for the longest on-screen awkward phone message. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. But mine is the spin. The credit goes to Mark on that, because Swingers almost made me. They did that so well in Swingers. I thought, I guess maybe I can't do. But Swingers, it's comic. It's totally comic.
Oh, totally.
And Mark, it's funny, but it's also just really.
It's sad.
It's really sad and pathetic.
Well, was there a real life inspiration for that? Was there
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, Jesus. There's 20 real life inspirations for that.
All right. Well, right what you know, I guess.
Yeah.
The film could have taken a real low point with William turning into a stalker.
Yes.
Or getting violent. But late in the third act, right as he's turning 21, he seems to regress towards his parents in a search for answers. Can you shed some light on how you saw William's parents function that late in the story and how he kind of clings to their shadows?
You don't fall. I was trying to say this earlier a little bit. Is that if somebody leaves you and you completely fall apart, you weren't that well built. You know, in a way. I mean, and I say that. I mean, this has happened to me couple times, and my point is, it's not their fault. The object of your affection, that's the line. Your heart was broken before. This is William realizes in a moment there. Why am I falling apart over this girl so bad? What's not right? When he goes to his mother, he says, "What are other men like?" Something's not right about me, and he's trying to figure out what it is. And then he goes to his dad. What's not? How do I wake this girl? But what is something's? He goes to his dad. Maybe I'm too sensitive. He's trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with him.
Well, it's great because it also interlocks that whole journey that he's on the bus, the entire movie. Right?
Yeah,
so.
It's all this kind of thing, and my point being is that the people we fall in love with, you're not really ready to love somebody else or be loved until you understand yourself. And William is not there yet.
Right.
And that's why the parents take over. And I realize, it's a structural oddity of the script that
it works.
It's these parents come in late in basically I guess what you call Act 3.
Right. No, they do. I mean, I heard you quote Tom Robbins. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. Did you have an unhappy childhood? I mean, was there any of that kind of childhood angst, disassociation with the parents from your own life, or was that just kind of the character?
I mean, we all feel some extent of that. As I've gotten older, I've realized what a blessed childhood I have when you when you trade stories and you see pictures from Rwanda, you got to wake up real fast before you start complaining about anything. But that said, what I mean, why I love that Tom Robbins quote is it's not about your child, it's about the past. And, in a way it's a play on this is a relationship that happened to me 15 years ago, and it's never too late for it to be a good one. We have these ideas that because things didn't work out right, that they were failures, when in fact it's how you respond to it. There's a great Miles Davis quote, there is no wrong note.
Sure. It's
how you respond to
it. That's right.
And that's what that's about to me.
The scene where you, as an actor, play William's father, it's a complete showstopper, but in a great way. Because the whole movie's been leading to that point where William's really looking for answers that life doesn't fully answer. The concept that his dad's going to be able to answer it all for him is, a little out there too. But you talk about writing that scene and how you were able to skip all the expected monologues and arguments and just, honestly, I got to congratulate you. You keep it so lean and mean. That's what really worked about that scene is everything that they said functioned, had dramatics to it, and it wasn't that long version that you would expect someone to have. Father-son reconciliation
scene is the ultimate cliche,
It is. And you somehow skipped it. So talk about writing that scene, how it evolved from...
Writing that scene is what made me want to make the movie. When I was tinkering around with the adaptation, that's when I kind of realized the scene was missing and came up with this idea of him traveling back. And how do you write that scene? And, I asked Wally Shawn once, what about this thing about navel-gazing art? People write, what's the difference between self-indulgent and stark, raw, emotional truth, the good stuff? What's the difference? And he said the difference is, all in execution. If you can really, really tell that it can't be an idea of a father and son. It can't. People don't really have some reconciliation. You've got to, it's hard to walk that line, but it has to be poetic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It has to be, what Tom Stoppard calls super real. It can't just be real. It has to be super real. It has to be a little bit more interesting than life, because I don't just want to watch people tie their shoes, Right. And part of it, I think, is actually, I didn't want to play the part, but part of it is helped by the fact that the director and author of the piece is walking out and playing the bad guy, so to speak. So it has an air of forgiveness. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about it works.
It was interesting.
And I don't know. I remember we were planning that thing. It's like an 8-page scene. And I said, oh, sure, we'll be done with that. That'll take a couple hours. And a location guy saying, you're not going to shoot 8 pages. And, because I thought I could do that scene and something else before lunch. I said, you can't shoot 8 pages and this other thing before lunch. I said, no. It's going to take no time at all. The guy's like, what are you talking about? And I knew that it had to be simple, It had to be like clear lines, and it couldn't. And I told Mark, I said, look, you're going to direct the scene. All that's important is neither one of us can get emotional. Like, neither one of us can.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the interesting things about your character is that you want to try and connect and remember the things that he's talking about, but you have no memory.
I know. That's the saddest part, because remember we were shooting those cans, and it's like, no. And you can tell, then the character says, yeah. You can tell he doesn't remember at all.
I mean, that's sad, but that's great.
It's so sad.
And it was like that on the page, too, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
I had a couple ideas for the character, which is just that, that he would want that he quit smoking like 7 years ago, and this is the first time he smoked a cigarette.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Was Sam Shepard an influence on you? Because
I almost said this. I'm a big Sam Shepard fan, and I had to really think about like how would Sam write? Sam would write that scene in a way that would come at you from left field, because he loves those kind of brothers that. A lot of us as men, we have no goddamn masculine identity. What does it mean to be a man?
Sure.
That's
ideas. What Shepard writes about that.
Yeah, and it's so hard. And I wanted to write about it too, because I struggle with it. And it's hard. But I have to say that he was a kind of a big influence. You have to kind of keep skirting around it. There's things in the writing of that I like that are. Just as it was about to get going, Mark's character says, can we talk about something else?
Yeah.
He asks him a question. He goes, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you get it? And the guy says, well, your mother. Hey, you know what? Can we talk about something else?
It was interesting. It was great to flip around like that, too. That worked. What was your biggest challenge during this project as either a writer or director? Was it really that scene?
No,
what was your
biggest
on set?
Oh, there's so many. The sexuality.
Okay.
That's hard to do, right?
It's interesting, though. So many people stray away from it and encourage violence in films. And
they love to cut people up and stuff.
But you had a lot of sexuality in this film.
I didn't think I could make a movie called The Hottest State and it not be sexy.
Absolutely.
Do you know? I just thought you can't do it. And you can't skirt around the fact. We see these things as if sexuality is so easy, as if everybody else is getting laid all the time and it's so wonderful and they have no body issues and they're not, you know what I mean?
What did your actors think about that? Because you as an actor, some actors said they want to stray away from nude scenes, but you definitely had nude scenes.
They're artists. They wanted it to be real. Mark thought he was behind me. I was like, look, we can't show her naked if we don't show you naked. And he's like, I agree.
Cool.
And he was just down, and everybody was a nervous wreck.
You're right. You can't make the hardest date without.
Catalina starts madly dieting, and I have to tell her it's not why we're here.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all like you can't help it.
All right, I saved the geekiest question for last. I'm
going
to take a listener's question and we're done. This is a total sci-fi geek question.
Okay.
But it's really interesting the way you use it. Right off the bat in the film, you bring up the Star Trek episode I, Mud, which was season 2, the sequel to Mud's Women, with the space con artist, good old Mud. And even though William calls the androids replicants, which is technically the Blade Runner term for them, so he's totally off the wall on that. Us nerds know this. It was interesting that he discussed Spock lying. And Spock's lies and truths, drove these machines crazy.
Right.
And later in the movie, William also asks her if she's a replicant. His is again wrong. Talk about where the hell that came from. Putting so randomly Star Trek in the beginning of this movie that And it was used right because the whole movie he's searching for the truth.
Yeah.
He asked her a million times, "Are you lying to me?"
It's all about the movie is a play. I mean, he's the character's an actor because I'm an actor, yes.
Right.
But people often miss the fact that what I'm also trying to do, the whole thing of walking in front of the window that you look out on, we're all playing roles for each other, and I love the metaphor of the actor trying to find his character, trying to find his voice. We're all trying to find our character. Who am I? What is my character?
So are you a Star Trek fan?
Well, the point is, this is what it plays into. And I am a huge geek. If you noticed when I first walked in here, all I cared about was your Darth Vader ring.
Absolutely.
I love the Lord of the Rings. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. I am, like my son and I, have lightsaber fights and geek it out. We play and I also wanted to make sure that while William was, an actor, he was also clearly a boy.
Yeah.
And this is what boys do. They sit around and talk about Star Trek.
It was just good because at first it's a pop culture reference, but later it really thematically
it's the themes of
search for
yeah.
truth. You actually already answered a couple of audience listener questions last
Okay.
night, but one of them was from David Bilbrey. He says the line about when you're a kid, everyone tells you to follow your dreams, but when you grow up, they're offended when you do. For this listener, it hit home since he moved to LA from the Midwest in 2003. Says he served just about zero support from his friends and family. The question was, he wanted to know if you wrote that as something that you just came up with on your own, or if it was kind of advice that a wise sage had given you along the way.
It came out of a frustration of, when I was doing a rewrite of the book, and it had come out that I was going to publish a book. And there was an article in Time magazine about it. Was said, "What's next? Brad Pitt's symphony." And there's an article in the Village Voice accusing me of sucking my own cock. And there was so much negativity about it, and that I just felt so confused about. I was only 25 years old or something, and I thought we were all supposed to. What I was naive about is to think the world is supposed to encourage you to follow your dreams. They're not. Right. I thought, hey guys, I'm just. Why is everybody so instantly so negative? And it's all over the place. And I remember there's this great moment in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that you remember when he tries to lift up the sink. They bet him that he can't throw the sink out the window, and of course he can't. He says to him, "At least I tried."
Right.
And I felt like, I used to think about that. Come on, aren't we allowed to try? And why does everybody act so offended all the time? Like as if I'm taking your party, Right. And so that's where that came from. And funnily enough, this person latched on that line. That's the line when you talk about reading scripts where Catalina decided to do the movie. She told me when she read that line, she thought, I want to do this movie because that's the way she feels.
And it is a great line. What's next? I mean, it seems like you had a good experience. Are you going to write and direct again? You don't have to do a book this time, dude. You could just go straight to the script.
I guess I could. I don't know. I hope so. It's I see guys like Linklater and John Sayles and Al Hartley and these kind of giants of independent cinema, really, and how hard it is for them to get their movies made.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. If you're not interested, if you are interested in kind of making the movies that I grew up on, Hal Ashby films and, those kind of Bob Fosse, early Scorsese, Cassavetes, those kind of, Godard we mentioned. If these are your influences and your aspiration, it's really hard to get the money to make a movie and get distribution and get anybody to care. And I don't know if I have the patience. I enjoy acting. I would be shocked if I don't keep trying.
Good. Are you writing anything right now you want to tell us about?
Not that I want. I'm always tinkering around with something.
Great. You've been very generous with your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, man, and congrats on a great film.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And that's how the Q&A went down. Thanks again to Ethan Hawke for making time to sit down with us and discuss his film, The Hottest State. If you dug this episode of the podcast in general, consider tossing a virtual tip into our PayPal virtual tip jar by visiting www.creativescreenwritingmagazine.blogspot.com and look for the PayPal icon. Your tips are greatly appreciated and definitely help out with equipment, hard drives, and all other things we need to keep this podcast running. Of course, feel free to check out my blog, which I even managed to update on the rare occasion I have time to do so by visiting www.jeffgoldsmith.blogspot.com. You could always feel free to drop me a line by emailing yo.goldsmith@gmail.com, and I'll do my darndest to get back to you as soon as I can. Of course, don't forget to click that subscribe button in iTunes or your podcatching software, and if you dig this show, why not leave us some positive feedback at podcastalley.com or in the iTunes Music Store. I'm Jeff Goldsmith, Senior Editor for Creative Screenwriting Magazine, thanking you again for tuning in and telling you to stay out of trouble. Till next week.